Так. І розпочинаємо сьогоднішню зустріч. Шановні друзі, сьогодні у нас засідання не просто національне, а у нас школа, міжнародна національна докторська школа «Інтенс» продовжує свою роботу. І сьогодні ми будемо з вами переходимо до міжнародного сегменту. Буде поспіль 3 лекції. Сьогодні перша, яку нам будуть читати наші колеги із університету Загреба, Хорватія. Я думаю, що зараз все ми почуємо, і дуже рада вітати всіх присутніх. Модерувати англомовну частину нашого сьогодні засідання буде Надія Іванівна Черкашина, наша колега з факультету іноземних мов і виконавець нашого проєкту. Також ми працюємо в проєкті Sunrise. І сьогодні 2 лекторки, ми тут з вами вже вітали їх. І важливий такий аспект нашої роботи сьогоднішньої. По-перше, це реєстрація, яку я буду вам в чаті постійно поновлювати посилання на Google форму, це перший момент. І другий момент, якщо будуть якісь запитання, будуть якісь обговорення, нам Надія Іванівна буде допомагати, якщо ми не дуже будемо впевнені з англійською мовою. І якщо будуть питання в чаті написані, також будемо просити Надію Іванівну, щоб вона озвучувала їх. Тому слухаємо і обговорюємо. Ну і на даний момент передаю слово Надії Іванівні. Будь ласка.
Okay. Good morning. Warm welcome to our lecture, and we are very happy to see all these people present here. Hope you will enjoy our lectures, and the floor is given to our colleagues from Zagreb University. You're welcome, Tamara. Will you start, please?
Thank you. Yes, I will share my presentation and start.
Yes, okay. Good.
Here we go. See everything.
Everything is fine. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yes. Yes, okay. Hello to everyone. Thank you very much inviting us to this lecture. So the title is Introducing Space and Ecology. My name is Tamara, and I will be presenting today with my colleague at the University of Zagreb, Mirela Perić, who is from the Science and Department of Biology. My specialty is I'm from Faculty of Architecture, Department of Urban Planning. Therefore, this will be 2 parts. First part, I will try to in very short notes what is space and as a theory and as a method. I will show only few examples of how it is being used, and we decided to introduce how we use this methodology for teaching and doing research in urban ecology here at the University of Zagreb. I'm lecturing and exploring urban ecology together with my colleague. That's why we are presenting together today. So we will have 2 parts. I will now start with the theory and method and try to explain what does it actually mean. It's very direct. Space syntax as a concept. So it's dealing with space. Space is observed here in absolutely general sort of way as a 3-dimensional expanse where we work and live. So it means it can mean a room, but it can also mean a city. So every scale here is observed as a space in which we are every day living and working. While syntax is literally what it means in language, it a sequence or a pattern which can be explored by observing how the relationship between words work in a sentence or in a language. Therefore, syntax here means a system of arrangement. That means space syntax, when combined together, observes a system of arrangement or relationship of spaces, and how this relationship of spaces, or how the systems are connected, spatial systems are connected, and influence on society, and how it influence on the way we use space. So we can connect rooms or urban elements as elements like words in a language, and we in space syntax observe what are the rules of how they are connected, like a grammar, and what are their meanings or usages. This is one more description of what space syntax is from the professor Kaivan Karimi at UCL in London, where I learned this methodology for 1 year, for 1 semester, and there I learned it like this. Space syntax is a set of theories and methods for modeling and analyzing cities using space as a fundamental generator of the city. This means that I actually observed this theory and method more in urban systems rather than in architecture, but this the UCL as a founder of space syntax theory and method observes it in all scales, including architecture. It is just not the part about which I will talk a lot today. I will explain it, but maybe not show so many examples. You will see more urban planning examples. So everything actually started at the Bartlett at the University of College of London back in 70s and 80s, when they decided to try to quantify the relationships in space so that it can be better understood, better analyzed, and actually quantified. Because in architecture and urban planning, mostly we talk about qualitative analysis, usually in our research. This is actually my photo when I was there. So just to let you know how at the Faculty of Architecture we work. We usually work with students in workshops, and we design with them during so-called studios, where they are presented with an assignment to design, for example, urban plan for a city, or to design building for school or some other building, housing, and they do that over a course of 1 semester, and at the end they need to have a project design. The research part of our faculty is actually in gathering the information about the space and extracting conclusions from it, so that the design can be actually contextualized. Therefore, like I said, to quantify the space is also important. We use density as a quantifier, or some aspects of how many percentage of the parcel needs to be built, and so on. So we use quantifications, but they are usually organized on some area. Space syntax offer us quantification for the entire system, and the system can be entire city, as you see here. This is the city of Zagreb in space syntax axial model. I will come to the usage and explaining what you are seeing actually now, but maybe a little bit later, after I explain the basic concepts of space syntax. So to do models in space syntax approach, we observe every space as a void. It can be a void of streets, it can be a void of squares, it can be a void of rooms if we observe architecture. But how do we then analyze it? And we analyze it from the point of view of movement in space. So how we use space always by some movement. We need to be able to move around it. Therefore, the movement and simplification in space syntax of that movement and usage of space is we draw the simplest to some destination, the fewest changes of direction. This basic concept was actually developed from the 80s in many directions. So elements to how this developed was through education, through research such as PhD research, through software, so that we don't need to calculate everything, every quantification by hand anymore. At the beginning, it was like that. And actually, through many publications, new research centers for space syntax developed not only in London, but also in America, in China, and in some other parts of Europe as well. Therefore, this academic of space syntax came first and spread now worldwide. And then commercial application is only actually I would say, in the beginning, Space Syntax Limited London is an office who tries to see how this research can be applied in the practice. And every 2 years there is a symposia where actually you can see here on the right many parts of the world who organized actually these events, from Brazil, Sweden, UK, Portugal, USA, Turkey, and so on. All these parts of the world actually have small space in laboratories. And everything I will be talking about today from theory and methodology point of view is actually open data. You can explore it on your own. You can see it on your own. It's called online training platform. And this online training platform is kind of a web where everything is explained in very small and easy navigate sort of, you can explore it. You have here available software and Ecology, which is sometimes a very, very important tool, because when you read the theory, which in London space syntax, they are learning for about a year and a half or years. People take to learn aspects from architecture to planning. Then the glossary it helps really to navigate all this research, which is actually still being developed. So main two fundamental propositions or here are that space is not a background to human activity, but it is intrinsic to it. How we design space depends on how we use space, and also how we design how we configure the relationships between space will influence on how we use it. We cannot use open space office the same way as we can use an office which is organized, for example, in cubicles of a large number of offices. So this is like the thing that is in the Faculty of Architecture fundamental proposition. But here they start with that, and they add the second proposition that the space therefore is first and foremost configurational, which means that what happens in any individual space influences on all other relationships with. So this relationship is something that space syntax adds and tries to analyze it, how this influence is happening depending on the connectivity of the space. So at online training platform here we have 4, let's say, basic elements on which you can navigate: representations from which there comes analysis, interpretative models, and theories. I will explain today only in short notes the representations and analysis. So first of all, how to observe or how to analyze the relationships in the entire system of architecture, for example, or system of the entire city or a neighborhood. First of all, we need to simplify it. There are three options how to simplify spatial configuration. One is observing linear movement. If we observe how people are moving in it, in that way, we will draw so-called axial maps in order to extract axial graphs. So axial maps are so in axial maps we have axial lines which represent the longest, straightest lines of sight which are possible to walk on. If we want to observe where do people meet, so meaning co-presence in space, in that research we will do convex maps, meaning areas. So one space will be simplified into one polygon or area. If we want to observe how people perceive space, in that research we use so-called isovist maps, meaning everything that an area, but area of everything that we can see from one point. Here is one very simple diagram from Professor Kaivan Karimi, which I mentioned already at UCL Bartlett because I actually learned from him. Here is how he explains how to draw the same area through these three different elements. Axial lines would be these bluish lines, lined axials actually. So axes which are the longest and the fewest number of them in order to observe or connect or simplify all streets in this system. This green actually small area of one, we can say, square would be a convex element in here. If we would draw all the elements in the system as this area, that would be a convex map, while so-called visibility graph analysis uses areas which are drawn from every point in the system in a sort of sense of everything that we can see. Here is one position observed in this red area as isovist actually area. And now what do we do with that? We analyze these maps, these simplifications of a space through graph theory. Graph theory means that actually everything is represented as an element, as a node, and we observe how they are connected. These lines are actually connections. Is the space connected to one, two, or a three or more other spaces? In, let's say, if this is some sort of small neighborhood with few streets, that means that here we have some streets and some entrances into the houses. That is the first image. The second image actually extracts this in a sense that axial lines represent one street. So the white lines are actually, let's say, axial lines. But the graph analysis now observes one element, one axial line as an element. Element is a dot in graph analysis, and observes which line is connected to which line. And then we get the third image here, graph analysis representing this small settlement or a neighborhood, where yellow lines are actually now here relationships, connections, the number of connections between streets. The most simplest layout for explaining space syntax or graph analysis is two rooms connected in two different ways between each other. And in first configuration, we have interconnected A, B, and C rooms and one outside space in a circular way. And in graph analysis, we can see that A, B, and C are all connected in between. While in the second layout, the right one, so from C, from the outside, we need to enter into one room, and then into the B room or the second room, we can enter only from the first room, A room. In that case, the graph analysis is linear. We go in a sequence of rooms. If we go to more complex spatial configuration, here is, let's say, one palace or one abstract house, space syntax in graph analysis, in justification graph analysis, allows us to really easily compare the rooms. The most central room in the spatial configuration is the one which is the most connected with all others. In this case, it would be, I will show you in this sort of sense, it would be the red one. It is the central room connected to 4 rooms, and if we observe all other rooms, they are really, really closely connected. So only 3 spaces away, we connect all rooms in this house, while the least integrated room here is the number 30, because it is very deep. So from the outside to that room, there are multiple connections, 6 of them, 6 rooms we need to cross to come into that room. So this is the basic, let's say, concept in very, very short way. From these 80s, when the theory was introduced, until today, many research has been done, many maps have been drawn, and depth map program software is now widely available for everyone to use. It also there is also a QGIS toolkit for analyzing these relationships, and I hope you all know what QGIS is. So in sort of sense, I usually need to explain this to my students because they don't know about georeferencing system, and that to QGIS they can easily analyze all these elements. But in spatial planning, it is very important. We overlap many layers, and now with space syntax, we can also overlap all these layers in QGIS with spatial structure or with integrational and similar analysis. In my research, I have also overlapped historical maps with this, and this Arcanum platform allows us to now easily use some of the maps which are now georeferenced, and every day they georeference more and more maps. I hope one day it will be actually an open base. Right now it needs to be purchased for the research purposes. From the theory point of view, like I said, we analyze also architecture, but also the city. Here is one example from architecture, which is actually one of the first research that was explored and done in London. It is Tate Britain Gallery in London, where all of this that I have been now talking pretty abstract about started to be at the beginning implemented together with social research. So here on the right, you can see visual graph analysis. So isovist drawing of the map, in-depth map analyzed, and here you can see integration. So how well integrated some spaces are. The more red, the more integrated the space is. It's like a heat map. And on the left, you can see a research that was done by tracing how the people move around the space. And literally 100 people they followed around this gallery. And what you can see is that in 80% of the data, this actually overlaps, and together this is the way how space syntax proves or checks its models. how it is being used in architecture sense. This is just a small example of this State Britain research. First, you see existing state, which you saw before, and then there was a study how to add a part of the building, how to extend this building. And here you see three solutions or three projects, project 1, 2, 3. In here, in this case for a design, space syntax help to see how different or how different this result will be in a sort of sense of predicting people's movement. Nothing of this was actually implemented. This was only a study. So far, I didn't see the extension of this gallery. Instead, we have now Tate Modern actually in London, which is very famous and new. But also we can explore cities, and this is how me and Mirela use this methodology. In that sort of sense, usually the city is explored by analyzing how people move in it, and that means that we draw cities through axial maps. Axial maps can be analyzed in depth map tool as axial analysis or through segment analysis. This means that from axial map, you can analyze how the whole long street, let's say, quotes in numerical data, or you can analyze each segment of that axial line, meaning from each intersection to each intersection. In that sort of sense, here you see axial map of one neighborhood. You see axial analysis of it, where the whole street is one color, or you see segment analysis, where each segment is analyzed in how it quotes and has maybe different color. Two main measures, which I will shortly just explain, and which are almost always used in space syntax research, are integration or probability that some part of the system will be a destination. If we observe that every movement has its origin and destination, and in between is a commute, in that sort of sense, integration observes how likely a place is to be a destination, A or B, in all destinations calculated which are possible. This is called mathematically a closeness, or it observes two movement toward, while choice is a second aspect or measure which measures through movement between, how likely a place is to be a walking or passage. And this in mathematics is called betweenness. So the probability of a route. And here is just one more example, and then we will go towards how we apply this in our research. This is a Trafalgar Square, which was decided to be redesigned at the beginning of this century. And here you can see the Trafalgar Square in London, in a sort of sense how it is connected and how it is within the urban fabric. What was the problem, or why was it aimed to be redesigned? Actually, if we at the beginning, when this situation was observed, the Trafalgar Square had traffic all around this square. But what observation pointed out, that although the space syntax in current usage says that this square is the least integrated part of this entire system, the most of the people are on Trafalgar Square because they want to take a photo there, because they want to be on the square. Square is a place for meeting people, and so on. And in fact, what this situation was telling us as planners is that it is dangerous, because most of the people want to be on that square and the square is not integrated enough. This means that crossing the street is actually kind of dangerous for pedestrians. Therefore, they decided to do many tests to see how to make this square become more integrated, or that its lines become red in these models. And they decided to actually, this was the situation before the redesign, and then they decided that the north part towards the museum, they will make pedestrian area, and since that is on a bit higher level than the square, they will connect it with the stairs. And this is the result actually. Now even more people can safely come to the wanted square, and this is after the opening, the new image of this connection. So no more walls, more connections and connectivities. So space syntax here actually helped to prove traffic engineers that this is a possible solution, that we don't need to have here a route or a road around the whole square. We in Zagreb actually try to now implement space syntax within urban ecology. And how this we are doing this, we will show through two master theses that we have been doing. One is defended and finished. One is actually in progress. We are doing this in collaboration between Faculty of Science and Faculty of Architecture. And just to give you a bit more of the spatial context, and then I will give the floor to Mirela. So in the first thesis, Marija Dadić was a student who decided to compare composition of soil in two parks in Zagreb. One very famous park and one very recreational and newer park, let's say. The objectives were to analyze the composition, to extract how many families we will find and species we will find in that soil, and then to compare that data with the configurational parameters to see if this can indicate the intensity of urbanization. We decided to observe this on different distances from the pedestrian corridors to parks. Here are these two parks. So Maxi and Jarun Park. This is again orthophoto. This is map of we try to point out where the historical core is, and to how these two parks are on two different areas in the city. Here is and the Sava River, so that you see the connection between Jarun Park and Sava. Jarun Park, a large lake, the main part of its design, while Maksimir Park is on the hill slopes of Medvednica, at the end of the slopes of Medvednica. It has quite different configuration from Jarun Park. It is a historical park. It had two design phases, Baroque and Romantic phase. From the Baroque phase, only the main axis or the main let's say alley is preserved, and that is our case, main spatial area, main corridor, where the most people use because it's the main connection between the main entrance and the main viewpoint in that historical. Jarun was actually developed as a recreational center, and it has a circular road pathway, which is the main pathway in the park, and that is our main pedestrian site on which we analyzed our research, where we looked for samples. If we observe this on space syntax map, here you can see their different configurations, where also the Maximir Park very, very close to what we call is integrational core, the most integrated 10% of axial lines in the entire system here, Zagreb system. So Maximir is very close to that core, while Jarun is a little bit more peripheral if we observe it in this model. And other aspects which we connected with our samples is connectivity. Connectivity meaning the number of direct connection between the lines, entropy as let's say sort a measure of chaos in that system, in overall system. And now I will give my floor to Mirela to explain what we actually got as a result.
Thank you, Tamara. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you in this large number. Considering this master thesis, as Tamara said, we had Jarun Park and Maksimir Park. We did here ecological research. Within each park, we had two sites. As you can see here, we had site A and site V in Jarun Park. And at each site, as you can see on these photos, we had three microhabitats. Microhabitat A was directly close to the near pedestrian corridor. Microhabitat B was approximately 10 to 50 meters into the mode green zone. And microhabitat C was near the succession zone where a green zone actually transfers into a forest. In that, we had three different distances from the main pedestrian corridor, and we wanted to test this. Next slide. In Maksimir Park, we also had two sites, site P and site M, and the same as in Jarun Park, at each site we had microhabitats A, B, and C. A being close to the pedestrian corridor, B in the middle of the green grass area, and C close to the successional zone to the forest, as you can see here on these photos. Okay, next slide. So for this study, we used pitfall traps as our primary sampling method. These traps were installed on May the 3rd and remained active throughout the entire vegetation season, allowing us to monitor changes in invertebrate activity over time. Trap contents were collected and replaced at approximately 2-week intervals, specifically, as you can see here, on May 20th, June 10th, and June 20th. We specifically chose spring for our sampling because it's the period of peak soil invertebrate activity, making it ideal for capturing the greatest diversity and abundance of these creatures. Namely, in summer, invertebrate activity often declines due to heat and drought, while in winter, many species are either in hibernation or adapted to frost conditions, which limits their detectability. And by focusing on spring and early summer, we aimed to capture a representative snapshot of the active invertebrate communities. Okay, next slide. After collection, all invertebrate samples were removed from traps. They were rinsed with water to remove soil particles and organic detritus, and they were preserved in ethanol. For taxonomic identification, the samples were analyzed in the laboratory using a stereo microscope, and these photos were taken under the stereo microscope. All individuals were identified to the family level, and it allowed us to assess patterns in soil, invertebrate abundance, and diversity. Next slide. For this research, we also obtained all necessary research permits from the respective park authorities. And we also collected a set of key physicochemical parameters for soil to better interpret the soil, the biological data, the invertebrate community data. Soil temperature was measured at the surface layer and at the 10 centimeters depth using infrared and probe thermometers. Soil pH was determined in the lab, assessing both active and exchangeable acidity of soil, and it helped us to understand the soil's buffering capacity and its stability under changing conditions. And we also analyzed soil texture, which influences critical properties like aeration, water retention, and nutrient movement through soil. And we also assessed organic matter content, primarily humus, due to its central and supporting soil fertility and structure. And these measurements were actually crucial for understanding the environmental background of each site, and there were some clear differences across locations, which we can see now on the next slide, which shows the results of the principal component analysis, which included 13 measured soil physicochemical parameters, as well as selected space syntax metrics from axial and segment analysis. And you can see here the PCA results reveal a clear separation between the sites in Maksimir, which is shown here on the left, and Yarun on the right. And you can see along the horizontal x-axis, it is mainly driven by space syntax measures. And Yarun sites are characterized by lower values of parameters that indicate spatial connectivity and integration, such as axial connectivity and integration and normalized angular integration. And Yarun had higher soil pH values compared to Maksimir sites. It is noted by the small letters along the x-axis. And the vertical axis, the y-axis here, separates the M and A sites shown above and P and V sites shown below, primarily based on soil temperature differences. So M and A sites had lower surface and subsoil temperatures than P and V sites, and it is most likely because these two sites, so P and V, were more open and exposed, and they were more affected by atmospheric conditions such as direct sunlight and wind. And this PCA analysis actually helped us to detect environmental differences among parks and among all sampling sites. On the next slide, you can see the number of soil invertebrate families and individuals collected across the microhabitats A, B, and C in Maksimir and Yarun. And the highest total abundance of invertebrates was recorded at site M in Park Maksimir, which alone accounted for 43% of all collected individuals. And in contrast, site P, which was also located in Park Maksimir, had only 16% of the total catch. So you see, even in the same park, there were very distinct differences in the diversity of taxa between sites. But when we applied the Cruz-Cavallis statistic test to compare if there were statistically significant differences between sites, these differences were not proven statistically significant, and there were no significant differences in the number of invertebrate families between sites. The only statistical differences that were proven were those that revealed micro B have significantly lower number of families compared to microhabitat C. And this is what we figured out, that so the microhabitat B, which was located on a green, in the middle of the green zone, had significantly lower number of families than microhabitat C, which was close to the forest edge. On the next slide, this is just to illustrate the diversity of invertebrate families we collected. The graph clearly shows that both parks have high biodiversity with many different families in varying proportions. But some families were more prominent in one park compared to the other. For example, in Maksimir, a higher abundance of ground beetles and springtails was recorded compared to Jarun, most likely due to the park's moist soil, more nutrient-rich soils, and lower pH, which favor these species' presence. And regarding differences between different microhabitats, A, B, and C, within Maksimir, spiders and woodlice were significantly more abundant in microhabitat C, for example. And yeah, in the Jarun, for example, Staphylinidae, so rove beetles, were more abundant, statistically significantly more abundant in microhabitat C compared to microhabitat B. So there were some trends also in diversity measures between two parks and between three microhabitats. On next slide, you will see the correlations between space syntax metrics, so spatial metrics, and the abundance of various invertebrate families across our study sites and parks. And also you can see relationships between invertebrate abundance and measured physicochemical properties. So these red squares indicate positive correlations between a number of these taxa and some spatial parameters, while blue square indicates negative correlations, and all these correlations were proven significant. And this text noted below in red bold text is actually correlations of the number of these families with environmental parameters. So we can see here that there are some significant correlations between spatial metrics, environmental parameters, and number of detected taxa, families. What we can conclude, we confirmed our hypothesis 1. So our results showed that soil invertebrate abundance and diversity increase with distance from major human movement corridors. Hypothesis 2 was partially supported. So while we observed associations between invertebrate distribution and space syntax parameters, we did not find consistent evidence that higher integration, so higher urbanization, correspond to reduced family level diversity. And hypothesis 3 was confirmed. So the structure of soil invertebrate communities combined with space syntax metrics proved to be a useful indicator of urbanization intensity and its ecological effects on biodiversity. On next slide, there is just a few notes on what we are doing right now with our second master thesis student. So we are aiming to analyze spatial accessibility, connectivity, and integration of selected high schools in Zagreb using space syntax methods. And we are conducting online survey to examine how students and teachers of these schools use outdoor high school spaces and perceive their accessibility and safety. And through this online survey, we also assess students and teachers' awareness and perception of ecosystem services provided by spaces around their high schools. On surveys, we also collect students and teachers' suggestions for improving their high school environment. In that way, we encourage participatory processes by involving students and teachers in proposing changes to high school outdoor spaces. And this master thesis is now in progress. We are just now conducting this online survey. And on the next slide, you can see our selected high schools. So you can see that two of the schools are located more closer to the city center, and one school, the green dot, is located peripheral. And on the next slide, you can see that the first school has a central city location, and it is located along a busy traffic street, and it has a high exposure to traffic and urban activity. This school is surrounded by streets dominated by business and office buildings. The second school is a so-called 15th Gymnasium. It is located within the urban area, but is not directly to the main road, and it has a smaller access street leading to the school, and it is predominantly located in the residential area. It's more quiet. And the third school is also gymnasium, located in a more peripheral part of the city with completely low traffic intensity and less dense urban context. And yeah, on the next slide, we once again show the location of these schools, and we will see what our students and teachers say, how they use the outdoor school spaces, how do they perceive the accessibility, safety, and comfort of their schools, and how they perceive the ecosystem services around their school. Are they satisfied with the location of their school? And Tamara, if you can switch to the next slide, we will compare their answers in the survey with the space syntax metrics and see if there are some links and correlations between answers of students and teachers and space syntax metrics. So once again, Tamara and I are somehow optimistic that linking space syntax and biological methods can be a direction in better understanding of urban environments. And we want to prove that syntactical model and metrics enable quantitative description and comparison of urban spaces and may serve as a proxy of anthropogenic influence on biodiversity patterns and human movement in urban environments. And I can say in my name that I'm very happy to collaborate with Tamara, who is from the other faculty, from the Faculty of Architecture, which is not naturally connected to Faculty of Science and Department of Biology. We are completely different institutions, but our interdisciplinary collaboration inspires us and motivates us for collaborative teaching and research practice. And we are very happy to have common students, also happy to work and collaborate with us. And with this, I would like to close this presentation. Tamara, if you still want to add something, feel free. You are muted.
Thank you, Mirela. I think you actually kind of really good concluded with why we are doing this and what we hope in the future. It was really nice when you approached us from your side of the faculty with the idea that we have this course on urban ecology and to combine the knowledge of urban planning with ecological sciences. And I think that so far we are doing a lot in that direction. And for us, it was really interesting to see how other sciences are observing the space and how this quantification could help improve our both research. And that will be all from us today, but we are looking forward to possible questions.
Sure. Thank you, ladies, for your very interesting reports, lectures, and sharing. Thank you for sharing your experience and information with us. So, dear colleagues, feel free to ask any questions to the speakers, perhaps.
Давайте традиційно я.
Of course.
Пані Надія, перекладайте, будь ласка, тому що у мене так багато думок, що я боюсь, що мій рівень
Давайте по одній. Я знаю, що у вас дуже багато думок. Давайте по одній.
Мій рівень англійської не дозволяє
Нічого,
перекласти це адекватно.
Okay.
По-перше, подякуйте за дуже цікаву змістовну доповідь. Я, напевно, вперше зустрічаю симбіоз з одного боку, переважно антропоцентричного архітектурно-містобудівного підходу до організації міського простору, а з другого боку залучення до оцінки такого простору критеріїв біорізноманіття, екосистемних послуг і так далі. Це дуже шикарний симбіоз. Перекладати.
Thank you. So, Professor Sanko thinks that this was very impressive reports that you could combine this anthropocenic approach to city planning, and that collaboration between your two faculties was really impressive, and that was very interesting for him from this point of view.
Дякую. Питання полягає в наступному. Це, напевно, буде стосуватись переважно пані Тамари.
Question to Tamara, that's for you.
Будь ласка, чи не думали ви над розрахунками такого показника, як кількість населення, яка б задовольняла усім параметрам вашого моделювання? Тобто, чи є якась критична межа кількості населення в містах, в якихось осередках ділової активності всередині міста, і яка б не виводила ризики екологічні поза якийсь припустимий рівень? Дякую.
The question is, Tamara, for you, whether you calculated the number of population or a critical number of population which would cause any ecological risk. What is the optimal number of people? Yes.
The research question here, and that will be much larger study to do. The city of Zagreb sometimes, in some intervals, calculates the number of people walking and passing through, but not actually in urban parks. I have not seen the study of that in urban parks. It is more connected to, for example, pedestrian zones.
Поки що таке не розглядалося, це в майбутньому, напевно, буде розглядатися. Тобто більше це відноситься до міських парків, скільки людей там. Тобто
Тому що я звернув увагу, що там переважно приклади по Лондону були все ж таки. Пані Тамара.
Why there were only mostly examples of London, not Zagreb?
Yes.
Дякую.
Yes. Okay, so because of there we have redesigns also. actually I have learned them in London, and that's why they are from London. I wanted
I see.
to present you the way I learned it so that I don't interpret theory and method differently. And I haven't done that type of research, and there have not been actually redesigns in Zagreb or in Croatia who use this space index. Space index is very limitedly used in Croatia, and actually it's only what I have done for PhD and with Mirela, so that's why.
Це в основному робота, яку вона виконувала для своєї PhD-дисертації і вчилася в Лондоні. Тому взяла як приклад,
ми так і
але
тут,
в Загребі це дуже поки що мало використовується.
І друге питання теоретичне. Ну, от, зважаючи на ваш досвід дослідження подібних проблем в межах урбоекосистем, мені б хотілося знати вашу думку щодо визначення урбоекосистем. Чи є це екосистема, чого там більше природного, штучного, і чи коректно взагалі вживати до елементів архітектури, дизайну в межах міст цю приставку еко? Дякую.
Okay. So another question is more theoretical. What do you mean by the word urban system, whether it is more natural or more artificial, and how is it, whether it is appropriate to call it as artificial design of ecological artificial design?
Maybe I can take over this. Yeah, there were in the history of urban ecology, there were quite many discussions about this. Should we include human-designed spaces in some ecosystem groupings? Because in history, many ecologists said that we cannot call ecosystem something which is human-made. But during time, there was a consensus in the history of ecology and urban ecology that we cannot put on side urban ecosystems because they are so much spread on Earth. If we would exclude urban areas and urban zones from ecosystem analysis, we would exclude much of the Earth's space. So it is considered and named as urban ecosystem, and these ecosystems are man-made and changed through human interactions. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Зрозуміло вам?
Дякую, зрозуміло.
Зрозуміло. Thank you very much. So we have some questions from Ruslan. You wanted to ask something, right?
Yes, first of all, I wanted to thanks for the interesting presentation, and I noticed that you sourced data from park authorities and conducted laboratory analysis of microorganisms, microhabitats, and soil, of course. And I'm curious about the time. So could you please estimate the full time you spent on this entire research process?
Yes. So the sampling, the taking of organisms in parks was done through, as I said, from beginning of May to the end of June, let's say. After that, we needed approximately in our half year to do all this stuff. Because Maria started her master thesis at the beginning of May, and at the end of December she graduated. So she needed approximately half a year to do all this with our help and support, of course.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ruslan does his own research. That's why he asked you about the duration of that. How long it may take, in the future to finish this work. Okay,
but it could have been we are having problems with the space now. Zagreb is still under, our building of Faculty of Science is still under construction after the major earthquake we had. So we don't have laboratories, and we were improvising in laboratory space.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more questions, please? No, Nastya, wouldn't you like to ask something?
Hello, thank
Of
you
course.
for.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to thank for your inspiring presentation. It's really sounds very interesting, and your research seem very pioneering to me, in a good opinion of this expression, because I think it's very valuable because it's integrated research. But at the same time, I have some thinkings about it. You combine the urban spatial methodological biodiversity assessment. What do you think about, maybe do you think, is it promising to use something like landscape approach as intermediate link to integrate this component, urban structure and biodiversity? Despite the influence of urban flows in urban landscapes, the urban fabric can be quantified as transformed natural landscapes, and these landscapes can also affect it to the special patterns of biodiversity distribution. What do you think about this? Because your insights are incredibly valuable for me. Thank you.
Question, and I think that your answer is absolutely. So I think that we don't know which data we would get, what we would possibly have in mind that this was a master thesis. It actually compared only 2 parks in the city. So in that case, I don't think that it was a test, let's say, if we will get any correlation for now. But for some PhD study, if this would be a PhD, absolutely different parameters could be included, such as the ones which you mentioned. And in my with my students on who are not actually PhD, but they are specializing. So it's a final project after the graduate level. There are often landscape who want to learn more about spatial planning on that level, and with them we are doing different quantifications based on the materials which can be in urban atlas, for example, or lidar, so which can be extracted from this GIS, and all of this can be overlaid with space syntax as well. And with them we are trying to find out the other correlations, but for them we don't have this urban ecology aspects of soils or some others, so I cannot now give you an example of how these data correlate. But of course, every quantification can be correlated. In this current master thesis, which we are doing with high schools, sorry, we are actually correlating also green areas, for example, or a number of trees. We will test if there are any correlations with the results from the questionnaire that we will get. So we'll have that next year as a data.
Thank you for your answers. It's I only one thing I needed to say. I wish a good luck to this happiest next PhD student with this great research. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Alana, do you have a question? No. Yes.
Доброго дня, Надія Іванівна, попрошу вашої допомоги. Хочу трошки повернути аспект, отакий естетичний, нашу дискусію, естетичний аспект, естетико-культурний, скажімо так. Скажіть, будь ласка, чи розглядали ви
чіткі показники екологічного стану міст, які пов'язані з відеоекологічними дослідженнями.
Okay. So, Alana would like to ask you whether you regarded the aesthetic cultural aspects like video ecological aspect of urbanization.
Що пов'язано з, наприклад, агресивними, комфортними, гомогенними середовищем, яке оточує людину, і від цього залежить психологічний стан населення міст.
Well, meaning that whether you considered different aggressive, for example, environment which influences the people as well.
So we did not do here in comparing these two parks, we did not aspect. We didn't question the people about the visual and aesthetical aspect. Are kind of integrated through our discussion because we had in mind that the Maximir is very historically and visually different from something that is rowing the boat center and very huge area of Yarun. But we didn't do the survey about the visual aspects, but in this second master thesis, we do ask through this questionnaire, we have some questions on their visual preferences and how do they find pleasing, how happy they are with their environment. So maybe there we will have some visual aesthetical results correlating with this.
Thank you. Алана, перекласти вам? Зрозуміло?
Кілька слів, основний напрям.
Коротше, вони не розглядали це у такому аспекті, як ви кажете, тому що розглядали в основному парки. Хоча у наступній роботі, які вони зараз роблять, ці такі питання будуть розглянути більш детальніше і у лімітах міста, не тільки в парках, а в міській забудові.
І ще одне невеличке питання. Я вчора рецензувала статтю наших українських колег, які присвятили свою роботу напрямку туристичного і урбаністичного такого аспекту, і вони розглядали так звані мурали, те, що називається стінописом. Чи є у вас у перспективі досліджень пов'язана з екологопросвітницькою діяльністю у якості стінопису, муралів і взагалі такого напрямку, скажімо, окультурення міст?
Well, the question is, some people pay attention to the murals, you know, how to decorate the interior city. And in Ukraine, in fact, in Kharkiv, despite the war, this is very popular. It's becoming very popular. So have you ever researched or studied such thing as how to make our cities better with these murals? On the
Have I understood correctly? Murals, like drawings on
drawings
walls?
on the panels of the houses.
Yeah, actually, I had one study.
Really?
I can even send you this if you would. It's not in English. It's in Croatian. But with
Doesn't matter, we can translate it from Croatia.
It can probably be translated, yes.
Yeah.
Or you can I can send you and you can tell me if something from there is interesting and I can show you or tell more about that. We were it was a more theoretical exploration in a sort of sense that it was connected to the city of Zagreb and trying to map the graffiti scene on and murals in Zagreb. And the theoretical part was to observe how this can benefit the city from other examples in Europe or around the world. And this was actually one of these final works at the speciality after the graduate study at the Faculty of Architecture under my mentorship. So in that sort of sense, yes, in Zagreb we have murals which influence a lot on our urban scape, I would say, in different way.
Коротше,
Yeah.
Алана Львовна, одна робота була така відносно цих муралів, і тепер планують нанести ці мурали, ну вони, як каже, як графіті, на карту Загреба, щоб подивитися, як вони впливають, але, коротше, була спроба таких муралів. От. Ну, більш теоретичний аспект цього.
Да. Можна запропонувати їм приїхати до Івано-Франківська, де величезна кількість таких муралів, і вони на цьому будують, адже наукові дослідження.
You are invited to come here to Ukraine in our city Ivano-Frankivsk. They have plenty of these murals, and they are doing research how this influenced our people.
Yes, yes, and I know that now. I mean, we see in images in newspapers, so we saw the Banksy in Ukraine, so that was one of
the Banksy, yes, was in Ukraine, in Kharkiv also, yes.
Yes.
Ми знаємо, що це.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Надія Іванівна, вам окремо. Дякую.
Thank you, Алана Львовна. Евеліна Анатоліївна, you to ask something, I see.
Ну, Надія Іванівна, любима вчителька, допоможи мені, будь ласочка. В мене не питання, в мене інформація. Для наших зарубіжних гостей, я думаю, що може навіть для когось із харків'ян теж. 2 роки тому на кафедрі фізичної географії і картографії була захищена магістерська робота створенню карти динаміки муралів на території Харківщини. Якщо є бажання, ми можемо поділитися досвідом.
Еліна Анатоліївна is a dean, ex-dean of faculty of ex-dean of faculty of geography, you know, and they busy with drawing up maps. So last year or 2 years ago, they had research concerning these murals, especially in the area of Kharkiv. And they have a map of this already mapped. So for those who are interested in murals, you're welcome to join us and to get some more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I will inform my former students.
Yeah, there is a map already, you know. Yes.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tamara. Any more questions, colleagues? I don't see any. Okay.
Ми вичерпали час, Надія Іванівна. У нас
Unfortunately, yes, our time is out because we have our next double period.
Okay.
So, thank you very much, ladies. That was very informative and interesting, and most best of all, that we can use your experience in our further collaboration, I suppose, yes. And let's keep in touch and continue our mutual cooperation. Thank you for having time for us. Yes.
Thank you, Tamara. Thank you, Mirela.
Thank you for invitation. Thanks.
Thank you. You're welcome to join our next lectures if you have time. Yeah.
We will try.
Yeah.
Thank
keep
you.
in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All the best.
All the best. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.